Hello again, this is Jenna Hampton with Neuro National, and this is part 2 of our Twitter overview and guide of how to use Twitter. I'm going to talk a little bit in this session about how to use Twitter for advocacy. You can also use these tips for other forms of social media, but I will say that a lot of our advocacy efforts do happen on Twitter, so I would suggest paying attention on here. So the first thing I wanted to show you is that it is really helpful to stay on top of what's happening on Twitter. A lot of times people will post breaking news. Naro posted some breaking news just today about the president's budget that he just released. So one thing that I would suggest is to follow different accounts. For example, you could follow the president. He would, every day post something new about what's happening, what his priorities are. You can also follow members of Congress, so you could look up your own members of Congress, or I'm showing Congresswoman Maxine Waters' page here. She is the current chairwoman of the House Financial Services Committee. The House Financial Services Committee is one of the major committees in Congress that works on housing policy. So I would suggest following her or following the committee's page. You can also click this button if you want to receive notifications anytime their profile posts something new. So if you hit that button, you should receive notifications in your email or however you have it set up, just so you can stay on top of what's happening currently. Another account I would suggest following is HUD's account. They're also on Twitter. So they post a lot of what they're coming out with or what they're prioritizing at the moment. We've got Secretary Marcia Fudge on here as well that you can follow. HUD also has their different regions. So if you are part of one of the regions, you could follow them as well to stay up to date on what's happening in your specific region as well. So I'm suggesting all of that just so that you can stay on top of what you may need to advocate for or what's coming out right now as a top priority. So going back to the NARO page, another thing I would suggest paying attention to is a lot of times NARO or other organizations will share letters or sign-on letters or things that you can support from your end as somebody who's on Twitter. So for example, on this tweet we posted this week, you could click on the link and that would take you to our Action Alert Center where you can send letters to your members of Congress and to the president. So what you would do is just click on the letter, read through it and type something that you want to say, or just go ahead and send it off according to your address and who your representatives are. So that's something to pay attention to as far as engaging in advocacy on Twitter. You can also click on hashtags that are part of different posts. So for example, housing is infrastructure is a hashtag a lot of housing organizations are using right now to share information about getting housing included in an infrastructure package that Congress is trying to pass through. So if you click on that hashtag, you can see, recently there's been a lot of different comments on housing as infrastructure. NARO has that, but also you can see other organizations are sharing information and why people should support housing as part of infrastructure. So if you pay attention to some of those hashtags that are associated with different campaigns, it can give you a lot of helpful information about what people are asking for or how to advocate for that. The last thing I'll share about advocacy on Twitter, I'm going to show you an example of NARO's current legislative network chair, advisory committee chair, Jennifer Akio. This is her professional Twitter page. And she's been really good about sharing NARO's posts. So this is a graphic that NARO originally shared on our page, but Jennifer went ahead and used the graphic to tell people in her network, tell people who are following her that they should send their letters to their members of Congress about housing as infrastructure. So that's a great way, and you can see she's done this often retweeting or using graphics that we have on our page, which is perfectly acceptable. It's what we want everybody to do. Just go ahead and engage with those, ask other people to advocate and send letters, or pay attention to what's happening. So yeah, we thought that was a good example. You can see here as well, Naro posted about a hearing where a couple Naro witnesses testified. So that's something you can do as well, is just share about what's happening, share about whether your organization supports certain things happening in Congress. So basically just staying on top of things, sharing letters, looking at what different organizations or members of Congress are doing, and paying attention to if there's anything that people ask you to do, such as letters or hashtags that you can share and engage in. So that is the second part of our Twitter training, and please just reach out to anyone on the NARO team if you have questions about how to use Twitter, how to advocate on Twitter, or anything that we have on our profile, and we will be happy to answer your questions.